Boys, we've got the Wolves back in the playoffs. They are taking on the dreaded LA Lakers and the media and Adam Silver and the NBA refs. So it's going to be a fun first round series for the Timberwolves starting on Saturday. Nolan and Tony, let's jump into this preview here. What I guess for the right off the bat here for you guys, what are the three things that will decide this series? So say we get done with the series, the Wolves come out winners. What are we going to be talking about as the three reasons why that happened? Nolan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so that is a good question. So I think first is going to be Anthony Edwards and his decision making. I think, you've seen at times where he can kind of get into hero ball mode and take some ill-advised shots. I think the Lakers are probably going to double him the majority of the series, and he's going to have to make the right decisions. That's something he was talking about in his media availability the other day. He was just saying, like, I'm telling all these guys, like, take the shots, take these catch and shoot shots, I'm gonna have to make the right decision. So I think that's gonna be really key. Because if he does that and they are doubling him, there's gonna be lots of opportunities for the rest of the Wolves. Um, I think defensively it's gonna come down to executing a lot of the game plan. They're gonna have a lot of different looks for Luka Doncic and LeBron. And so they're going to have to do a better job than they did, in the Western Conference Finals last year. I think it'll be a little different because obviously it's a much different team, where you're not going to have somebody chasing around Kyrie the whole time. So I think that is plays in the Wolves' favor actually in this one. But of course, you just have LeBron now, so you're going to have to come up with some schemes and execute and throw a lot of different looks at them there. And then I think it's going to be taking advantage of what you do have and this series size. Rudy Gobert has been playing kind of out of his mind offensively in particular lately. I mean, on both ends, defensively he's a given, but offensively he's been playing probably some of the best offensive basketball he's played since he's come to Minnesota. So I think if he can keep that trend going, the Lakers don't really have, it's just going to be Jackson Hayes. They don't really have another big. So he should have a lot of opportunity crashing the offensive glass. I think if he has a really big series, that'll be really good for the Wolves. So I think those are kind of three things that stand out here for the Wolves to come away with a win in the first round.
Tony, when you look at the series, what are the three things the Wolves will have to do if they're going to come out the winners in this first round series and move on?
Yeah, the Lakers are obviously a really interesting team because they've only played together, Luka and LeBron, for a handful of games because LeBron's been banged up a little bit this year, and then they've only had the second half of the season. But I mean, Timberwolves fans obviously know how deafening Luka Doncic can be in the playoffs. That he can just hit a shot that completely changes a game, completely changes a series. And approaching this series, I think I mean, if I was a coach, I would almost. It sounds weird, but almost make LeBron beat you instead of Luka because LeBron is 40, and when you have two generational players like that, it just Luka can take over a game so quickly at his age right now, like we saw last year in the playoffs. And I think they need to prevent those 40 point, 45 point games and almost get him around like the 30 point thing because those it's almost impossible to beat any team led by Luka Doncic if he's scoring 40 45 points. So it sounds easy to slow down Luka Doncic being a key to the series, but I would almost want LeBron James to beat me if I was coaching the Timberwolves, which it's an interesting thing, but I like Nolan's point of the size. I think the Lakers defensively don't have the pieces to match up with the Timberwolves in the front court because you mentioned Rudy Gobert being a true uh, 7 foot center, and then you throw in Nas Reed and you throw in Julius Randle. The Lakers do have Rui Hachimura, who's a good defender, but I would take Julius Randle against him all day. And then you throw Nas Reed in off the bench too. So I think they definitely need to lean on that size. And then, like any playoff series, it's the guys you're not expecting that I think play a difference when you get into these high pressure situations. Like, do the Timberwolves get a Nikhil Alexander Walker game where he gets 25 points out of the blue? Does Nas Reed break out for 30? Does Jaden McDaniels find his offensive rhythm again? Those are the things in a series that I believe to be pretty evenly matched that the Timberwolves need to happen if they want to come out on top.
Is it surprising to you? You guys mentioned how evenly matched this series is. Is it surprising to you that so much of the outside expectations and predictions for the series is just leaning straight up Lakers? 6 games, 7 games, 5 games. It feels like, and I know it's the Lakers and it's LeBron and it's Luca, so there's always going to be that certain amount of hype that goes with it and expectation. Is it surprising to you, though, that despite the run the Wolves went on last year in the playoffs and what they've shown over the last handful of games and being in pretty good form, that so much of the outside perspective on this matchup, this series, is that the Lakers are going to run away with this series and beat the Wolves pretty handily and move on? Nolan.
I mean, no, it's like with a lot of the national coverage of the NBA, it's like they watch the coasts, they watch New York, they watch LA, and they might catch the occasional Celtics game or two. So it's they probably just aren't watching the Wolves much. I think too, and then they've got the star power, right? So it's like LeBron and Luca are the biggest stars of the series. As much as Anthony Edwards has developed into a star himself, he's still not kind of got that level of recognition. So I think between having the star power and being LA, they've probably seen a lot of games, a lot of Lakers games, and be like, well, seen them at their best. It just seems to be that is the usual kind of national consensus. And the Wolves, I guess, are the underdog, right? They're the 6 seed. Lakers are the 3 seed. There's only one game difference, but um, and I think with Carl Anthony Towns trade too, it's not quite the same Wolves team, and it took them a while to figure it out and get it going. And they had to play all their tough games at the beginning of the year when they were trying to figure it out. So that naturally led to some hiccups. But I think it's pretty what you'd expect from the national media consensus.
Tony, does the fact that the Wolves are seen as so much of an underdog in this series play into their hands and how they like to set up and play and go into matchups like these?
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting because, I mean, anyone who follows sports at all realizes that the big markets get the national media hype. But when you look from a betting odds perspective, the Lakers are favored in this series, but it's not by much. They're like minus 160 around there. And like implied probability, that's like a 55 to 60% chance of winning. And I think anyone that's like a true following the NBA hard all season would probably put this series like around there. And I think those are pretty fair odds. The Lakers do have things that are really tough to defend. I don't think anyone knows really yet how to defend a team that has Luca and LeBron when they're healthy. So that Lakers should be favored in this series, in my opinion. But I think those odds are very fair because the Timberwolves are a tough team to defend, and the Lakers haven't been playing together for that long. So, well, the media makes it seem like it's David versus Goliath. I think it's really much closer. And it's really not surprising by any means that the media and possibly the NBA would want the Lakers to win the series because they're going to be the most watched team the whole playoffs. There hasn't been a team with two mega stars like this in quite some time.
Nolan, I know you and I. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just say, as far as the odds go, Rudy Gobert pointed out a couple times during the season that the Wolves, when the odds were not in their favor last year in the playoffs, Phoenix was favored, Denver was favored. They win those series, and then as soon as
Very
they
true.
become the betting favorite against Dallas, that's when they lost. So it might be for the best here that they're the underdogs.
You, Nolan, you wrote about, I believe it was you that wrote about this over on Wolves on SI. No, it was Will, sorry. That wrote about this on Wolves on SI. 5 questions heading into this series. And one of them, Julius Randle and his playoff ghost. He's not been that great in the playoffs. What do we expect from him in this playoff series? Because as you guys mentioned, Anthony Edwards, uh, Rudy Gobert, they'll be key in this series. But Julius Randle, he'll have to find a way to be key in this matchup. And how much can the Wolves expect from the guy they got in that one of the guys they got in that Carl Anthony Towns trade? What should we expect from Julius Randle this postseason, and what you've seen from him in the back half of this season?
Yeah, well, I think For one, I think it's kind of a unfair knock on Julius, some of the playoff woes he's had, because he's been injured. He hasn't been able to play. So it's like really the last couple of years. I think it's the last 2 years in a row he's been injured in the playoffs. And those were really the only 2 years the Knicks had any kind of roster that was going to be competitive, had a shot at winning anything. Um, and so, yeah, it's like what you have on the table hasn't been great, but this is his really, I think he said it the other day too. This is like his first real chance he's had at competing for something. So I think he's going to be motivated. Something to think about too is he's got a player option for next year. And so he could be playing for a much larger contract in theory here too. And I think will have to be a big series. I think he's going to have to be locked in. It seems like he'd be the most natural matchup for LeBron defensively, so that's going to be key. And in the last half of the year here, he's really kind of settled into his role, which has been providing whatever the Wolves need on any given night. That can be maybe scoring 25, or that can be going for 10, 10 and 8. And he's been able to do that. And he's been a really good facilitator. He's been able to kind of collapse the defense, create space for Ant. I remember the first game Julius came back, Ant was like, I haven't had an open catch and shoot three in months. So that creating that spacing and collapsing the defense there, it's going to be a little bit of everything. And then Finch said the other day too, they play better when Ant and Julius are both kind of creeping up on triple doubles here. So I think that's kind of what you're going to need from him. You're going to need him to be locked in defensively, do a little bit of everything, rebound, pass. Um, but I think the playoff ghosts. I don't think that's going to be something that comes into play too much here. I think he'll be locked in, and where he's finally, being able to take advantage of an opportunity now that he finally has it after the injuries the last couple of years.
Tony, how important is Julius Randle going to be for the Wolves in this series?
Yeah, it's the matchup part of it's a little interesting. Is LeBron going to guard him, or is it going to be Hachimura? Because at LeBron's age, he's obviously not the defender he was when he was with the Heat or the Cavs. So do you try to hide him on someone like Jaden McDaniels, who might not be as difficult to defend as a Julius Randle, who's more physical, or do they put Hachimura on Jaden McDaniels? So that's one thing I think I'm interested to watch in this series. But yeah, I think he's a huge part of this series, and if you can get a couple big games from him, the Timberwolves are going to be hard to beat if he's playing at his best. And the matchup thing, I think, is definitely a big factor going into how well he might play in this series.
One player from each of you guys, outside of Randall, Gobert, and Edwards, who is going to impact this series the most for Minnesota, Tony? Tony, I'll start with you, then Nolan.
Oh, I think it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's one of the most versatile defenders in the entire league, and in a series like this, I think he's going to be so important for how they match up with LeBron and Luka, because I think he can help on both those guys, and they're going to need him defensively more than anything, because he's a better defender than Mike Conley and DiVincenzo, who might contribute a little more offensively. So I think they're going to need him in this series, and if they win, I think it's because he had a good showing.
Nolan?
Yeah, I'm going to say Jaden. He's going to be tasked with. We'll see what the matchups are when they come out, but it seems likely Luca, but it could also be Austin Reeves. He's going to be pretty critical on that end too. And something Finch said more so last year, but Jaden's kind of like a barometer of their offense, right? When Jaden's getting points, it's generally the Wolves are playing pretty well. The ball's finding everybody. When he's not, that usually means it's getting a little sticky. And he's shown the ability to, kind of have these big games. And if the Lakers are going to be doubling Ant and they're going to be putting a lot of focus on Julius, then they're going to need some additional scoring elsewhere. And Jaden seems kind of that guy who can give it to you. More consistently than maybe some other guys. So I think between that, having that third scoring option and then the tough assignments he's going to have defensively, I think it's going to have to be a big, strong series from Jaden.
When the schedule came out for this series, one of the big notes that was taken away from it was the amount of rest. There's 2 games there's 2 days off between games 1 and game 2. There's 3 days off, I believe, or 2 days off between games 2 and 3. Similar for just the 1 day off between 3 and 4. It looks like, if I'm doing my math correctly, which questionable, admittedly. So if that's wrong, I apologize. But it is notable how much rest there is in between games in this series. Who does that benefit more? Does that benefit the Wolves or the Lakers more in this series, Nolan?
I'd say the Lakers because one of your two best players is a 40-year-old LeBron James. So if you're going to be playing him heavy minutes, which you're going to need to, it's the playoffs now. He's going to benefit a lot from that rest. The Wolves are young; they don't need it as much. Your best player's 24. 23. Jaden's 24. You got a young roster where Mike. It's probably helpful for Mike, but Mike is not the same impact player LeBron is for the Lakers. So I think that benefits them. And Luka's going to be playing heavy minutes too. And I think they just don't have the same. The Wolves have a lot of depth, where I think that's just not going to be as much of a strength for them with all this rest.
Tony?
Yeah, I totally agree that it favors the Lakers more. We saw it last year. Luca, the entire playoffs, it seemed like he had an injury like every game, and he was limping around. So Anthony Edwards likes to do that in his own right, but the Lakers are definitely a more shallow roster, and they lean, I think, on their starters a little bit more, and they're definitely older. So on the surface, it's just definitely going to favor them, I think.
You guys mentioned the depth. How deep do we see Finch go into his bench during the first round against the Lakers? I mean, the depth has been there for the Wolves all season. How that's been used has been up for debate throughout much of the season. How deep do you think Finch goes into his bench, Tony or Nolan?
It's the playoffs, so I think it'll be majority eight-man rotation, which it kind of has been, except for you've had Jalen Clark getting some ninth man minutes. I think he could get some minutes, particularly if somebody ends up in foul trouble, and he's also a player I think that could see time, kind of really in any series, but this one particularly with the with Luca and Reeves, he's a guy who could defend either one of them, maybe even LeBron. He could kind of defend just about anybody. So I think he could, in theory, get some minutes, but I would expect you're probably starting with eight if there's not foul trouble or if there's not something going wrong. And then I think Jalen Clark might get some minutes in situational or things like that. But I think it'll be mostly just the eight-man rotation.
All right. So then expanding out a little bit, looking at the NBA playoffs as a whole, when you look at the playoff bracket in the Western Conference, does this set up favorably for a Wolves extended run in the playoffs, landing on the side of the bracket they did? You got obviously the Lakers, as we've been talking about in round one. Round two, if you advance to round two, if the Wolves advance to round two, will be either between the Rockets or Golden State, depending on the winner of that series. Is this set up favorably for a Wolves extended run in the Western Conference, Tony?
Yeah, we were talking about the betting odds in this series. I'd be very curious if they face the Rockets, what the odds would be in that series. I think they might even be closer than they are against the Lakers. I wouldn't be entirely stunned if the Timberwolves were favored in that series, but just based on the Rockets' youth and lack of experience in the playoffs. But yeah, I think honestly, this might be a tougher series than that one, in my opinion. The Rockets just seem like a team that's still a year away. They had a great regular season and they're a great team, super talented. But it's just you rarely see teams that young jump out to a ton of success right away in the playoffs. I mean, we saw it last year with OKC. So it's definitely an interesting thing when you look ahead there because if they do win, I would like their chances of getting to the conference finals.
Tony or Nolan?
Or Nolan. You know what? Yeah, I think it's interesting Tony brought up OKC because the Rockets kind of feel like OKC last year, where it's like this is a really good team, but they're young, they haven't been there, and I don't see them having a pathway. To be honest, I would not be that shocked if Golden State is the team that makes it out of that series. Just because, it's the kind of the same thing. You got these veterans who are going to be really trying to get one last crack at it here with Jimmy and Steph. And I don't know, they've been playing so well. I know they lost to the Clippers in that last game, but I wouldn't be that shocked. I'd be honestly more scared of that matchup for the Wolves than I would be the Rockets. I feel like the Wolves have played well against the Rockets. I don't like the idea of Golden State. And I think the Lakers are probably one of their worst matchups too. So I think this is really a bad side of the bracket for them to fall on. Um, Even though it's like you wouldn't see OKC to the Western Conference Finals, they play pretty well against OKC. The Lakers is kind of scary. I think Golden State's kind of scary. The Nuggets they play great against. I don't know. I think it's the wrong side of the bracket, but you land where you land, and you're going to have to beat these teams
Yeah.
anyway. So might as well
Uh,
get them out of the way.
a Golden State series would be quite something against
The
Draymond
storylines.
and Jimmy Butler. There'd be a lot of drama there.
Would Jimmy play in Minnesota? That'd be
Yeah.
the big
He
question.
couldn't duck it anymore.
He's
There's no
avoided it
way.
as long as he can. Now it comes to
Yeah.
the playoffs. Can playoff Jimmy show up in Minnesota?
That
Home
would be
court
box
too.
office.
Probably be on TNT. So who knows if there'd be some post game interviews for the Wolves players after that. All right, we waited 25 minutes into the episode. Let's get your predictions for Wolves Lakers. We'll look at the rest of the playoffs and continue that conversation as well. But let's get your predictions. We'll go around the horn here. Nolan, you've got the rest of the staff's predictions. I've got Joe's. You've got Will's, I believe. So let's start off with your guys' first before we get into those guys' predictions.
Yeah. So I have got the Wolves in 7. I'm picking them. I think they're going to be I think it's going to be a great series. I don't really know what's going to happen here. Um but I'm picking the Wolves in 7, and I talked myself into liking this for a couple of reasons. One is because of the size and the way Rudy Gobert's been playing down the stretch of the season. It seems like a lot of pundits will think like he's going to be unplayable. I think he could be a big difference maker if he is like crashing the offensive glass the way he has been, catching it down low. And he's had a tendency to drop some passes, but he's been just really great offensively the last month plus. So I think that's one reason. And then if you look at the numbers, there's really nothing the Lakers are better at than the Wolves. Like offensive rating, Wolves are a better offensive team. They're better defensively. I think they have the personnel to throw at these guys, and I talked myself into liking it, even though I don't think it's their greatest matchup. I still think they can make some noise. So I think it's going to be a great series, and I think the Wolves are going to be able to squeak it out in 7.
Tony?
Yeah, I could see this series being one that we see a lot of like big swings of results. Like each team maybe gets a blowout win here and there. And I think one thing a lot of people aren't talking about is it's JJ Redick's first playoff series as a head coach. And in these series from game to game, adjustments are so big. Like right away, maybe one matchup you weren't seeing before the series, like it clearly is a mismatch one way or the other, and then a coach realizes that and adjusts quickly. And I think I give Chris Finch the coaching advantage here, just purely based on experience, which I think is something that is very valuable. And yeah, I think everything we've talked about, each team has things that favor them on either side. But I think the Wolves' experience of last year's run, deciding not to make a trade at the deadline, I think gives them the edge in this series. And I think they squeak by in 7 as well.
Nolan, what do you got for Will's prediction since he is out today?
So Will is the flip side. He's got the Lakers in 7. And if I
Boo.
pull up his prediction here, I think everyone seems to think this is going to be a pretty great series. I think so too. And he thinks the Wolves have the ability to win, but he's going with LeBron and Luca in an evenly matched series. So he's got Lakers in 7.
He's the one guy who's got the Lakers in this series. I have him in 5 just because everybody else went with the longer series. That's literally my only basis for saying the Wolves will go in 5. Just wanting to be different from you guys. The current run of form, the last 10 games, Wolves winning 8 of their last 10, including big blowout of Memphis, getting a big overtime victory over Denver. I think those are good signs for the Wolves. And as you pointed out, Nolan, the Wolves kind of do a lot of things better than the Lakers do at this moment, though. The Lakers, as we've said, do have Luka and LeBron, so that does give me concern considering Luka almost single-handedly wrecked the Wolves last year in the playoffs on the way to a Dallas run at the NBA Finals. Joe did message me. He said Wolves in 6, and I'll quote his readout here. It's the playoffs. That means you pick the better team to advance. You don't make picks based on individual superstars. Last year, Luka and Kyrie were an elite 1-2 punch, and they were coupled with the balanced big Dallas lineup. The Lakers have Luka and LeBron, which I think is easier to guard than Luka and Kyrie, and they lack size, outside shooting, and defense. Good bleeping luck, LA.
All right. I'm surprised he didn't go with the Wolves sweep, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that felt like that would be Joe's MO, but I guess
Yeah.
no Wolves sweep here. When you look at the rest of the playoffs, the Western Conference playoffs, we talked about that Rockets Golden State series. Just quickly between us, we don't have to go into too much detail about it. Who's winning that series? Who are the Wolves facing in round 2? Should they move on? Nolan first.
I think I'm going Warriors. I think Houston's just young. They're a year early, and the Warriors since the Jimmy trade have just been really good. Tailed off a little bit, but I think they're going to be the more playoff ready team.
Tony.
I, I think Nolan might have talked me into going with the Warriors as well. Admittedly, I've not been watching a ton of non-Wolves NBA this year, but the Rockets just seem like a team that's still a year early. And Ime Udoka is a good head coach, but again, Steve Kerr in these series, people don't talk about coaching the NBA a whole lot. I do think it matters when teams are fairly evenly matched. So I could see the Warriors giving them some issues. So I'll go with Nolan and agree that they win that.
Who's winning Grizzlies Mavs? Quick. One word answers. Nolan first, then Tony.
Grizzlies.
Grizzlies?
Grizzlies.
All right. OKC Grizzlies in that 1-8 seed. Nolan, then Tony.
OKC.
Okay, see.
All right. Nuggets Clippers in the 4-5.
This one's going to be as good as the Wolves series. That I'm excited about this series. Um, I think because of the rest, I'm going to take the Nuggets because they can just play the starters basically all game. But I think that's going to be a great series. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Tony?
I'll go Clippers. Zubats guarding Jokic will be interesting.
All right. So then the second round series between those two, we're just going to pick the Western Conference playoffs here. OKC for you, Nolan, OKC Nuggets. Who's moving on from that one?
There, I got to go with OKC. I think even the best player that the OKC is just too deep.
Tony, Nugget or OKC Clippers?
Okay, see. Yeah, too
OKC.
deep.
And then on the opposite side, Wolves and Warriors for both of you guys. Who's coming out of that one? That one will have so many storylines if it actually does happen.
I'll,
I
I'll
like
go
that.
Wolves.
Okay, go for it, Tony.
Yeah, Wolves. I think Golden State's definitely past their prime. All those guys. I think they showed they got one little run in them, but I think the Wolves flex their muscles on them.
Nolan?
Yeah, I like the Wolves too. I think that I would be having a lot of fun with that series watching Jimmy back here having to play in Minnesota. But I think the Wolves are just better overall, deeper.
There's a one minor hitch in how you guys got there, but you guys both ended up with OKC Wolves in the Western Conference Finals. Second year in a row for the Wolves making the finals. Who's coming out? Who's going to the NBA Finals? Nolan first, then Tony.
Yeah, I can't pick them over OKC.
Ooh,
I
even
think
even despite your previous comments saying that they played OKC good this season.
right, and they did play them well, and I think that would be a great series, but OKC is just so good, and I just they split in the regular season. I think it would probably be another, like 7 game, 6, 7 game type of series, but the OKC's been the best team all year long, and there's something to be said for that. So I think that consistency, they got everybody. I can't pick against OKC.
Tony?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Right now, I would tend to agree with Nolan that I think OKC is just too deep. They have too many weapons. They've been the best team all year. But if that series does happen, I could definitely talk myself into the Wolves, giving them a run for their money in early summer when that does happen, if it's the case.
Man. 2 years of heartbreak in the Western Conference Final. Nothing like a Minnesota sports team to break your heart consistently. Love the way we ended this show. Some positivity here to end the show. Guys, good stuff from you. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Do hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It does help us get found. Notifies you every time we post a new video here to the channel. Also, go read all of our work over at Vikings, Twins, Timberwolves, Gophers on SI, covering it all. Tony's got the transfer portal tracker going on the Gophers on SI. Plenty going on in the transfer portal for Nico Medved and now PJ Fleck, now that the football window is open for a little bit. And Nolan, you'll be covering Twins and Timberwolves, especially Timberwolves in the playoffs. So looking forward to all your guys' work. Go read that over on those sites. We'll talk to you tomorrow with another topic across Minnesota sports.